In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Question everything, trust nothing. It's your boys, Keeper and Crusader. We have a lit house tonight. It's TA Thursday, so we brought on some of the greatest minds in the TA game. We've got going around the horn here. We got Frankie Candles. Frankie, how you doing, bro?
What is going on? Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thanks for being here, bro. We got TA Tim from Crypto Jebb. What's up, Tim?
Yo, what's going on?
Glad that you're here. You guys all know Crusader. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Todo tranquilo?
No? Okay, well, don't do it.
Oh, okay. He doesn't want me speaking Spanish. Okay. Gareth, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. Glad that you're here. And Magic Internet Money in the house. Are we ready to have some fun, Magic? How you doing?
Always fantastic, man.
All right. Let's make sure we smash the likes, guys. We got a lot of people in here. Let's have some fun in the chat. We are going to do kind of around the horn as it relates to the TA space tonight. I want to hear from Frankie, from Tim, from Gareth, and from Magic, kind of where they're seeing the markets. We know that it sucks right now. It's been rough, and we're all kind of bleeding slowly. But how long is that going to last? Is it going to last, you know, another week, another month, another year, another 2 years? So we're going to kind of get into some of that. So make sure that you guys are in the Discord. Join Danger Close Alpha. We've got our 10,000 piece drop coming soon. That's a free NFT drop. So make sure that you guys get involved with that. And then follow us on Twitter. Listen, Frankie Candles, TA Tim, Gareth, and Magic are all here taking their time when they could be somewhere else. So make sure to follow them. All of their information is down below the video. We appreciate the love. So without further ado, Miguel, you want to take a quick look at the market and then get into the charts?
Yeah, sure. Let me start throwing up some TA here. Why do we even bring all these guys here for?
I wasn't asking for TA.
No, I'm just busting your balls, dude.
You got it pulled up?
Let me bring it up. Yeah, I got it.
All right, cool.
1 second here.
Let's take a peek and see what's going on overall. Even though I think we know what color the charts are going to be.
It's not great
as it stands right now. Yeah,
I know, right? You got it pulled up.
What's going on? Here it is. Quick little refresh here. You can see we're still under $1 trillion for the total market cap. Everything's down. Bitcoin's down 10% today. Ethereum down 13%. Look at this 40% drop in a week, dude. 32% in a week. Massacre. Just massacre, dude. 9%, basically 10 for BNB, 27 on the week. Cardano 10, 24 for the week. Dude, just massive. Double digits on the week, even double digits on the daily, dude. It's just terrible everywhere. There's nothing holding out. Even Tether over here is about to lose his peg.
It's blood red everywhere, and so let's dive into that. So I'm just going to stop. I'm gonna start top left. So Frankie Candles, my question for you is pretty simple. Is this going to be, and obviously you can give me a little bit more than this, but is this going to be short lived, or should we strap in and be ready for some chaos for a while? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I always have fun when I come on your guys' show.
Heck yeah, let's go.
But yeah, so let me go ahead and share my chart real quick. So yeah, basically, I do think. Okay, I think you guys can see my screen. Yep. Yeah. So listen, I know a lot of people. I'm going to try to keep it quick. I know we have a lot of people here. I know a lot of people are, they have their eyes on this 200-week moving average, right? We bottomed out almost perfectly on it in 2018, and I'm not going to scroll back and look for it, but, in 2015 as well, we basically bottomed out pretty close to that 200-week moving average. So I know a lot of people are watching this level, and I think it's important to realize that, if we do go into a really crazy recession, depression, whatever winds up happening, I think it's important to realize that every bear market that we've had for Bitcoin has happened in a macroeconomical bull run, right? So this would be the first time that we see Bitcoin in a real recession. And in my own personal opinion, I do think that, maybe we have some relief at some point, right? Nothing goes down a straight line. You'd think relief would come in, at some point here. But in a little bit longer term, if we do go into a recession, I believe crypto will definitely get absolutely crushed. Like I said, let me come back to my face here. But Yeah, I mean, I think we could go further. I don't think it's impossible to break this 200-week moving average. And I remember last time, Gareth was showing us some lower targets than this 200-week moving average, and it makes a lot of sense. He brings up a lot of good points. There's a lot of evidence pointing to some of these lower, his lower price targets. And again, with a recession, depression, whatever it winds up being, it will be the first recession that Bitcoin winds up encountering. So people are going to be not going to be flocking to risk on assets. They're going to be flocking to cash, safer things. So I think it could get pretty ugly for crypto.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's a massacre out there. I mean, Bitcoin's been dropping like never before. So I guess the next question would be, and it's open up for anyone to take it first stab at it. But basically, are there anything besides we just covered, the 200 simple moving average as a bottom indicator? Anything else in your TA? Because everybody here does very different styles of TA, right? That shows them some type of technicals, something that we could be bottoming out for Bitcoin soon. And if you don't see that, where do you see it dropping to?
Let's hear that from everybody. That's a great question.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I think this is my first time be on any other show other than Crypto Jebb. So,
let's go.
This is good stuff right here. No, I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'll go ahead and, this is you guys asked the question. I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at. The first thing is this level right here. This is a previous all-time high, obviously. Many analysts have gone back and shown this, but you guys are going to see back here the high that we had right there at the end of 2017, kind of zooming to 2018. That is previous all-time high. If you go back and look in the history of Bitcoin, our bear markets don't go back below. And I don't know why I had those lines there. I must have been working on something earlier. Oh, wrong thing. That's a futures. There we go. Wrong chart there. We don't go below a previous all-time high when we hit bottoms of bear markets. I'm scrolling back here. This is the bottom of the bear market here. We did not go below previous all-time high. So there's a kind of a situation that we're going through right now. Is this going to be the first time we ever break through previous all-time high and go to the downside? Or will that consistency uphold? So that's the first metric that I'm looking at to say potentially we could be seeing a bottom right here. The other thing that I'm looking at, and I've been talking about this here on Crypto Jebb's channel. I've been hosting here last couple of days with Jebb being out. But look at this uptick in volume. You're going to see this uptick in volume happen at bottoms where there is price reversal. Now, there's a couple things I would say about this. So this is my case for saying that I think we could see a reversal right now in price. It's also my case for saying we're at least coming back down to this point, if not lower. And the reason why is because, of course, we're looking at trades being entered, both people buying, both people selling. It's telling us the time to reverse the market. The only problem with volume being high, though, is that when you're looking at supply and demand, this is what indicates to those whales, those institutions, those traders who like to manipulate and get the supply away from the everyday trader. It's their indication, hey, guys, that's a great level to come back down and gather some supply. So let's take some profit right now. Let's head back up. If you guys can see currently, we're kind of operating in a falling wedge pattern. And we talked about this on my show this morning where we could possibly come back up here into the mid-20s, maybe even get to the higher 20s. And it kind of acts like a bull trap before we drop back down to those same levels. What I would really like to see when we come back down to say we're not going to drop below 20, though, is to see low volume, not high volume. And the reason why is because the same thing we had last year. If I'm going to scroll over to the time last year, remember this period in 2021, a lot of us thought we were going lower. We didn't think 30 or 29 was the bottom. A lot of people were calling for that 20. A lot of people were calling even lower. And we had massive volume come in with the initial dip. We had a little bit right in this period in June. There was hope. Maybe we're coming back out of it. But of course, that was a fake out. We came back down, had high volume again. Not as high as before, but still an uptick in volume. But you're going to notice right there when we actually did reverse, this bottom right here in July, the volume is low. The volume doesn't uptick until it confirms the market. So in the same way, that's what I'm kind of looking at right here. I do think this peak in volume is an indication that there are bulls ready to buy. The price can go back up. The question, though, is this going to be a time where that volume is a bottom, or is this going to be another indication to all those traders, hey, great place to buy, go get you some profit somewhere in mid-20s and wait for it to come back down or even lower?
Yeah. Thank you very much for that assessment. I actually have a question I want to throw in relation to that over at Gareth, but real quick, I want to take a quick pause. Tony D with the super chat. Appreciate you, Tony. Tony says, shout out to Debate Crypto and Frankie here from the Candle Mafia. Let's get it, Candle Mafia. Thank you guys for being here. So I'm going to ask this to Gareth in relation to what you just said, Tim, because I know his stance. I actually don't know Magic's stance on this. So I'm going to ask you, Gareth. You've been calling for some numbers well below 4, or you could see some numbers well below the previous all-time high at 19.8, whatever that number is exactly. So we look at history so often, history. What makes you think that we are going to finally break that historical tradition?
Yeah, I think the first thing that and this is coming from a stock market perspective, is that like it's almost like historical perspective in a market that's been around for 13 years is like saying that like
You
a
watch
13-year-old,
watch your mouth, young
sorry,
man.
you know, like a 13-year-old is like mature adult who can make good decisions, right? I mean, so I think that's number one. Number two is that so previous bear markets see like an 80 to 85% drawdown, right? So you have two conflicting issues here. You have the fact that no previous bear market has tested the high, and then the 80 to 85% drawdown. So one of them is going to be wrong. This is the first time we have the Federal Reserve tightening aggressively with high inflation. So it does sway me to say, okay, this is going to be the one that takes us below, because there's extra issues here that weren't in past cycles. So I think that's definitely there. I think on a TA basis, and I can show my chart real quick here, is that number one, we're going to pierce 20 just because everyone has stop orders just below 20, and the markets love to run stop orders, right? So what I'm actually, and this is kind of going in a shorter term basis, is what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to get down to like 19.5, maybe 19-ish, and then we're going to have a snapback bounce. And again, this is that high from 2017 that was like around 19.5 or whatever it was. But I think you have to pierce that, stop out a bunch of individuals, flush them out. You guys were talking already about high volume. That's exactly what high volume does. It flushes out the weak hands. Then you get the reflex bounce to lure them back in at higher prices. Everyone will start saying, oh, the bottom's in. We just hit that high pivot. We're getting a bounce now. And then I do think it's going lower. A couple signals that tell me that, you got the measured move, the classic measured move here. This high down to this low. You take that same distance, and it takes you down to 12,000. That's also this pivot point right here. And 12,000 is approximately 80 to 85% correction off 69,000. So there's like lots of things that, and I guess I should throw this out too, is that for me, I look at the stock market and I recognize the coordination where selling in the NASDAQ specifically begets selling in cryptocurrency. We've seen that, right? So I look at the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ's not even back to pre-COVID highs yet. We're probably going into a recession, which means there's going to be more downside in the NASDAQ. So it's hard to imagine that crypto would bottom here if the NASDAQ's going to fall another 10, 15, 20% to me. So again, I'll kick it back to you guys, but just my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, so guess up next is Magic Internet Money. You were here last Thursday, and you called for the Devil's Basement, right? Yeah. You were calling for Devil's Basement.
The Devil's Basement. Now I missed it. Yeah, I wasn't here. What was the Devil's Basement?
So last Thursday we were talking about we're entering the Devil's House, and then there's levels below the Devil's House, which is the Devil's Basement, right? And since we're heading, there's signals that we might head below 19. Magic Internet Money. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. I actually agree quite a bit with what Gareth just said. That's been our kind of trading plan in the group, is we're looking for 19 to 28. And we want to see a wick down there and a reclaim of support. If we get that, that is what we would want to see in order to get in on a bounce. Feel the strength coming in, trapping those traders down there. In terms of what he has said, it's pretty much been weakness. For me, lack of interest. Watching the order flow is what's kept me in my short. I'm still riding my short, as you're aware. And it's just one of those things where there's been absolutely no reason to close it. In terms of actually looking at this chart,
talking about that short real quick, I saw a post that you're like 900% up on your. You still have it open?
Yeah.
Oh my!
It's more of a hedge than anything right now,
Hey.
because I do hold quite a bit of Bitcoin. So it is one of those things where you have to take into account that if you're going to be holding that amount of the asset, you have to hedge against it. So if price is going to drop like this, I have to do what I have to do to protect my capital. So it is one of those things where I'll run it until there's strength that shows me I should close it. I don't intend on taking a whole lot of profits from that until I'm forced to. I'm in a good position where the entry was clean. So I'm just going to let it ride and not worry about it and day trade the rest of it. So this is a pattern that we talked about a little bit last time, and I brought up in July of 2021 when it actually hit the first completion zone. This is a log scale pattern, so I'm pretty sure that if Scott Carney saw it, he would bastardize it and tell me that it's not correct, but it is a deep crab, and essentially what it's doing is giving you Fibonacci convergence up here at the highs, and then we're just identifying where we'd be taking profits at if we were looking for ranges. And that's one really great thing about harmonics. Same with volume, but harmonics will often give you the pivot points in the market. And so this has actually been the high time frame levels I've been looking for coming into the zone now that we have. So that zone is not just the top of your all-time high. You do have other things that are coming in here. If you were to track Bitcoin on a quarterly basis, which is one of the better ways that you could do it, you can actually see that there's almost every naked point of control has been filled in Bitcoin's history on a quarterly basis, all the way down to this one right here on this wick. This was actually a QNPOC down here that front ran that gap that did get filled. And we had one at 59K back in July, and we had one at 19,228. And I basically had said, well, however this resolves, we'll either run it back to 59K, which is where I took profits because, again, I didn't sell the top like a lot of people want to insist you have to do. I took profits here, and I said, if it can live above 62K long enough, I'm happy with it. But at the moment it starts losing that, we have problems. And obviously those have transpired into pretty big problems for the crypto market. So this is a big level. If you lose this level, you were asking about the basement. Well, it's kind of hard to say. You would have to really start looking at things in terms of time and price. You guys know that I like to do quite a bit of that. So the move up, we'll talk about that for about 2 minutes, and then I'll show you exactly how I'm timing for the correction. The move up was a butterfly harmonic. What you can do with those is run a fib distribution on it from there. So you'll have your timing of it. So this was your first 30% bounce here, and you can essentially just run this pattern out like so and put a fork on it because you're just looking to track price within a certain time frame. You're not looking to catch every exact bottom or top, but sometimes it does work out that way. It's not meant to be fortune telling. So you catch the low here, you get a 28% bounce. You saw a clear lack of interest out of this range. You can actually see it on the volume profile. You didn't have to watch the order flow. You could have just looked at this. And the way it's shaped, you can see that it is a lowercase b when you zoom in, showing you that really most of the volume was done down here. It was a lot of sellers. There was a real lack of interest coming up here to back test an old range from where this was the June range. So this is a very clear back test of old support and a big sign of weakness. So that's why I was very confident that unless we were to swing fail this low, I was not interested in buying, and I would just continue to hold for these positions down here. Now that we get into that, we can do the same thing on a much broader scale since we've got 4 years of history for Bitcoin, not on the Bybit chart, of course, but on Bitstamp. So we can get rid of most of this and we can start running it out in the same fashion and starting to kind of plan and say, well, where are the levels that I might be interested in? And if we were to divide it up into sections, we can look at it and say, well, I would be looking for this to come into potentially some form of a local one-to-one in both time and price, ideally mid-July. Now, if it moves beyond,
let me stop you, Magic. What do you mean by a local one-to-one?
So this is a one-to-one in time and price. So you're looking at the same distribution for the move, essentially. And I guess I should show you what that looks like. So this would be a very similar thing. So everybody's into Elliott Wave at some point. Most of them overcomplicated, I think. I think Gareth's going on Alessio here soon, by the way, and he's really great at this. But what you can see is if you were to count this as a macro 3-wave, which no one's really going to disagree with, I think, in that community, again, we're looking for the time. So if you took the time and the length of this move and then transpired it over, you can see that we did hit a 61.8% expansion in log scale, but we hit an exact one-to-one in time, which was our high, our all-time high. So we can do the same thing for corrections now, and you can turn around and run it out for
and run it the other way.
Yeah, now we're running it the other way, but this is more of a local one. So this is just the BCD from 14K to 3K back up to the all-time high here. And you can see at the 618, it is our breakdown of our EQ. Now we are looking for the low of this, which comes in conveniently at 19,139 or 19,228 is what we're looking for in the group. And then we're just going to monitor the level. I would never preset for any of these things. That's just not a good idea, especially in these situations, because if it does break, there's room to the downside, and you could throw on another fib extension if you wanted to, like this, the 1618. Where's it coming at? Like $8,600. If you were to zoom out even further and say maybe this is going to be a really large correction, you could really start pushing this out to like November and saying we could foresee some of these larger targets down in that $10,000 to $13,000 range, and you would have the fib confluence, you'd have volume confluence down here. There's all kinds of levels that could be hit, and there'd be technical reasons why. It's just a matter of taking the information as it comes to you and making a good decision. So kind of like Gareth was saying, if we get down to 19,228 or 19,500 or whatever it is, we take those lows and we're given the opportunity to get in on a trade when we see the strength enter the market after trapping traders potentially. Well, That's the opportunity you want to do. But if that does not occur, like right here, it did not, you can't just blindly buy into the candle if you're trading. If you're dollar cost averaging, I'm not a huge proponent of just blindly dollar cost averaging, but if that's in your plan and you're going to hold for years and you believe that's the best way, do what you're going to do, buy the red. But just understand that you could be buying all the way down to 10K. I mean, those numbers aren't unrealistic at this point if that 19K region is lost, in my opinion.
So there is a ton of different, when you guys get on here and do TA, sometimes it blows my mind because there's literally so many different just variables. There's so many options. There's so many different ways to do this. I just saw 4 experts in TA show me 4 different ways to come up with essentially, hey, the same idea, like, hey, this 19,000-ish area is like really important. And you're all saying, hey, we have the opportunity to possibly, go a lot lower.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of throw it back to Frankie and ask you this, Frankie, what's a really simple way? We've got a bunch of people in here that a lot of them are going to be, not quite as technically savvy as it relates to the charts. I kind of want to go around to you guys and kind of ask, Frankie, what's maybe a really simple way that you have been effective in the TA space?
So are you asking like simple ways, like if you're not super technical, go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking. I'm asking without throwing 16 different, ideas of how we get there. Like, what's kind of a more simple, hey, is it just like ranges or like what's kind of a simple way you've been effective?
Yeah. So, here, let me share my screen real quick. There we go. So, one way you can kind of simplify it right now, I typically use a mixture of, I use a lot of Market Cipher, which is this, this oscillator down here, as well as these little signals. I use a mix between Market Cipher and traditional technical analysis. But, it's a simple way, with Market Cipher, I do think this is a simple way. And this is kind of going back to, one of the previous questions we were talking about. We did have a green dot on the weekly chart. Now, with the green dots, you can see that, when we printed these, this is simple for people who are trying to get into TA. I recommend definitely learning traditional TA because that's going to help you infinitely. But with Market Cipher, it kind of makes it it makes it very easy to read. But with this double green dot here on Market Cipher B, it almost marked our bottom in 2018 perfectly, as did the 200-week moving average. Now, I know we were just talking about how obviously with us possibly entering a recession or even worse, a depression, obviously I would expect, kind of like Gareth was saying, if we are going to see something worse than we have seen in the past, I think right now with, again, the macroeconomic environment being the way it is right now, I think this is a good time to see history break, right? I think it's good to look back at history and take it into account, but you can't put all of your eggs in that basket because, history may repeat itself or rhyme until it doesn't. You can't ignore the different conditions we're in right now, again, in a macroeconomic environment. But with Market Cipher B, these green dots have marked the bottoms in the past. Even in 2015, it also did. But we were marking one, right? And it was looking very good because we were approaching that 200-week moving average with that weekly green dot. And it was looking pretty good. And we lost the green dot. It did not confirm as we had this big capitulation down. But this is an easy way that you could kind of keep an eye on things. And, you can learn how to read Market Cipher B in a very simple way. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed, even with traditional TA. A lot of people get overwhelmed with all the lines everywhere. It looks a lot more confusing than it is. So I like to keep it pretty simple on my channel. We do get, we get intricate, but I try to tell people like, step back. I know, on the daily time frame, we can see, we did have this bear flag, right? Let me get my parallel channel here. So I'm just going to rough this out here. We did have this bear flag, right? And all people were seeing here was higher low, higher low, higher low. And, I'm looking at it. I'm like, that looks like a textbook bear flag. These are obviously bearish continuation patterns, right? And it played out like textbook bear flag. So my recommendation is just keep it simple. You know, sometimes too much information can be bad information. I say that a lot on my channel. You know, again, people were like, yeah, but you know, it came down this exact percentage and they're comparing it to this and that. And like, all I see is a bear flag, and it played out exactly as they typically do. So just go back to your, you know, your traditional TA, try to keep it as simple as possible. And again, things like Market Cipher, it doesn't have to be Market Cipher, but there's other indicators that can kind of simplify it for you.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, Frankie. I want to take a quick pause real quick to thank. We got a few super chats in the house. Kenton says, best TA panel ever on Debate Crypto. Love you, Kenton. Appreciate you, brother. Bubba's Crypto says, thanks for everyone's time and input. Great panel. Hashtag Candle Mafia. And then we got Sean from New World saying, just want to thank CryptoKeeper and everyone on this amazing panel for their time and expertise. It's like the Avengers of TA. So, gentlemen, if you had any questions, everybody is excited that you are here. Tim, you are probably, as I understand, the newest to the TA space, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got Jebb, who a lot of people just absolutely love. I love Jebb, great guy, has done really well with the channel, has done well in the TA space. So since you're on the newer side of this, what has been a really good way for you to learn the TA space?
Yeah, and I was gonna say it, if it had just come straight from Frankie to me, I was gonna say, hey, listen, I am the newest person on here. I don't know if I'm the youngest or not. I'm 28, but maybe I'm the youngest. I don't know. But I'm definitely the newest TA person here. Here's what I'll say. For anyone out there who is watching this stuff, by the way, Magic, phenomenal job you did right there. I loved watching you. I have never used anything that you just used right there. I watched that. And I was like, that's something I want to learn how to use. But here's what's really important. And I if anyone out there watched what Magic just did, if you watch any analyst and you watch what they do and you get lost and confused and you just say, oh, I'll never be that. You got to stop that right now. You got to learn, hey, humility is the beginning of actually becoming something great. So when I came in and when Jebb hired me, he hired me to help run the company, not to do technical analysis. In fact, I'd invested in Bitcoin because he advised me to. I had no idea about crypto, no idea how to read charts. I am through it. You guys see VT back here. I'm a sports guy. That's all I had brought to the table. But guess what sports taught me? Sports taught me, hey, when someone's better than you, you can either A, quit and say, I'll never be that, or B, you can keep playing with them. You can still train with them. You can work out with them and you get better. So I just sat there pretty much at the feet of Jebb, is a good way to put it. And I learned. And you know what the other thing is? It's not just say, hey, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to learn. Even when it looks confusing, I'm going to learn. The other thing is fail, get wrong. Be wrong. Be told that was stupid. That was dumb. You're wrong. Hopefully your people teaching you aren't that harsh on you, but be okay with failure. I cannot tell you how many times I've looked at the charts and I've thought I've seen something because I learned the technical analysis, then found out that's actually not how you read that. You got to learn to just stay in the game and accept failure. One of the ways we kind of put it on our channel is when you fail, like let's say you're trading and you enter and you lose money on that trade. You could look at that as a loss in trade, or you could look at that as, hey, that was like paying tuition. I just learned a very valuable lesson right there, and I'm going to use that from here on out. So when you're going back, the whole point of TA is looking at the past, analyzing the past to help predict the future. There's no way to know it perfect. And even though I think every single person right here on this video is brilliant, not a single one of them is going to tell you they know the exact bottom. They don't know the exact top. If we did, why would we be doing YouTube channels? We would just trade those perfectly, and who cares what anyone else says? But what we can do is continue to listen to each other, to work together, talk through our disagreements, analyze. Like I just said, watching Gareth, watching Frankie, watching Magic, there's things I'm sure I could have discussions with them and disagree, but those would be such good discussions that I would come out so much better. And there's gonna be things that we find confluence on. That's the other thing is, basic TA. I loved what Frankie said. Hey, sometimes it's good just to start with the basics. Market Cipher, it's a little more advanced. You got to learn that. It's a really cool tool, but it's a little more advanced. I love using Luxalgo. Again, it's a little bit advanced tool. Sometimes the basics are the absolute best to just go in and start with. So you learn the language, you learn how everything works. And then, like I said, I'm in this camp. What Magic just did, I'm like, come on, baby, I'm going to learn that next. Like that's my next goal, is to learn whatever that tool was he was using. And that's my journey. That's going to be my journey for the rest of my time here in crypto. And guess what? I'm already profitable. Now crypto has changed my life. Even in this crazy bear market, crypto has changed my life, and it's going to continue to change my life. But I'm here to stay. I'm here to learn. I'm here to grind. You pick up that work ethic, pick up that philosophy, and you will be successful in technical analysis, in crypto, in everything.
Preach,
perfectly
Tim, preach.
said, man. Yeah, man, perfectly said. I completely agree. just want to intersect real quick and say, hey guys, we're giving a ticket away for New York and for NYC NFT next week, right? So we're giving away a ticket tonight at 9 p.m. on Twitter. Make sure you catch our tweet that's out there on the Danger Close Alpha page. The quickest way to find it is jumping into our Discord, and we're going to be giving away whitelist spots to our Danger Close Alpha project as well with the same tweet. So make sure you check that out and jump into our Twitter space at 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight after the show. But next question up, right? We've talked about Bitcoin up, down, where it's going. But what about Ethereum, right? Because Ethereum is being hammered. So if we do see Bitcoin drop to these lower levels, most of us, at least I never thought we were going to see another time when Ethereum is going to be sub 1,000. But now it looks very, very likely. So what kind of prices are we seeing here? I'll point this at Gareth and Magic. What kind of prices do you guys think we're going to be seeing for Ethereum if we break lower?
Yeah, I'll jump in to start. So I definitely think Ethereum, we know it's been weaker. Makes sense since Bitcoin's kind of the one that a lot of the big money's been gravitating to, whether it's Michael Saylor or some of these other individuals. But I do think it's got more downside. I think you're probably talking about 815 or so, 830 as being just a near-term low. I am concerned it could even go lower than that. But I will say this, and I bring a little bit of a different perspective because I started as a stock guy. There's definitely signs that I do think people should expect a bounce soon. And if you guys would just indulge me, I would love to just share those with you because it's a little bit of a different kind of deal. So this is the Ethereum chart. This is your next big support on this, right down here at this 820, we'll call it 825 or so. So that's your new next little pivot. But, when you're investing, one of the things that I learned about the stock market is that it's about deciding where your money is better, right? So when interest rates go up, there's a certain amount of people that say, well, now I can get 3% on the 10-year. Why am I taking risk in the market? And they rotate out of risk assets into the 10-year yield. So the 10-year yield, especially in the stock world, is like hugely, hugely important. In fact, the bond market is actually many times the size of the stock market. It is the biggest market out there. So they always say the bond guys know more than anyone out there. So one thing I've been noticing here, and again, it's not a fully closed candle, but if we go to the 10-year, and the reason, by the way, just to reiterate why I'm showing the 10-year is because if the 10-year has topped and if interest rates start pulling back, then risk on becomes intriguing again. People start saying, well, now I can only get 2% or 1%. So I'm going to go back into stocks. I'm going to go back into crypto. And what you're forming here, and I'm sure all the TA guys on here know what candle this is. This is a weekly topping tail potentially forming on the 10-year. So if you're putting in a top on the 10-year, and let's say the 10-year starts coming back in, that does signal a potential near-term rally in crypto, in stocks, and so forth. And I love kind of converging technicals. So one of the things I just was looking at, I was like, all right, let me play around with trend lines. I'm a big trend line guy. What if I connect this high to this high? What happens, right? Well, look at that. It goes literally right to the highs that actually were put in today and yesterday on the 10-year. So now you have a trend line of resistance plus a potential topping tail. Maybe that signals a sell-off, which again, I think everyone agrees. Maybe we go to 19-ish, 19.5, somewhere in that. Then maybe you get a technical bounce. The other thing, and I'll keep it short, is just to watch the dollar. Remember, so gold, crypto, they generally will trade inverse to the dollar. The weaker the dollar, the less it's worth. In theory, crypto, Bitcoin should go higher, as should gold and other commodities as that. So if we go to the DXY here, the DXY just is hammering on this upper. And by the way, the dollar, this is the dollar chart. The dollar has been ripping up all year long, really, actually since 2021. Which has been putting extra pressure on crypto and on other assets that are traded in dollars. But the idea here is if you go back to 2015, you're definitely at the high end of this channel. And it makes me think that, okay, now the dollar could weaken, let's say for the next couple months, maybe Bitcoin can rally, just back at least to 30,000. And the cool thing about that is if you go to 19 or 20, 30 is 50% return, right? So, I mean, again, it's all relative to where you're in, obviously, but just a couple notes on just a couple interesting little things there. I think that investors should kind of keep in mind is that there's other things to look at besides just the chart of Bitcoin or just the chart of Ethereum that will actually have an impact and sway your decision making.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Gareth. I always like that you actually. I started in stocks and never been like a hardcore trader, but got into some options, got my butt handed to me, didn't truly understand what I was doing. Just basically, more or less, when I look back on it, I was doing a lot of gambling. I mean, that's legitimately what I was doing. And when I moved into crypto, I vowed to myself, no more gambling. I'm getting into technology and assets that I believe in long term. I'm going to do some more simplification. I'm going to do dollar cost averaging. That's just, has been what's worked for me. And then I'm going to play around with some trading. So that being said, Magic, I want to ask you, I know you've been teaching CVO a lot of new stuff, and I think a lot of it has been volume related. Can you explain to the people on here how volume can be used to effectively kind of show us or lead us in the direction of where we're headed? Because we can have high volume and go either direction. So what are you looking for when you're looking at volume profiles?
So sometimes it's the shape and how they're formed. If you want to know how I use volume, we're getting CVO on this train as well. Let me share my screen or make sure it's shared here. I'll show you what we did today. So we do a little bit of live trading in the group as well, like when we day trade. Today was one of the times that we did that. I believe that's this one. So exocharts, flow software, volume. Simply put, what I'm doing is delta most of the time. So volume profile is showing you the standard deviation of volume that's done inside of a certain area. And it of itself is not actionable to take a trade. There's nothing there momentum-wise that's telling you there's a reversal unless you're going purely off market structure. So for us, we start diving into this. This is order flow. This is something that I've been using for years. There's not a lot of people out there that use it. There's a few that, they're starting to kind of come around and they're really advertising it. But most of the traders that have been using this on YouTube aren't using this. So
can you simplify with the order flow? Just explain it for the newer people.
I'll show you what we took this morning. So this actually is not a time chart. This is only based on volume, and sometimes I do delta charts only as well. What we're looking for is real-time trend changes. So this morning we were looking for a move down into 20,688. I think it hit 20,711, front running the previous day point of control and a high time frame key level right around here, I believe. Yeah. So I use a little bit of everything. So what you'll notice here is this is time, and I'm actually using time as a barometer for when to expect some form of an open interest change. And from there, I'll monitor the delta and I'll look at the percentages and say, okay, I've got very high negative delta coming into support. Now I need to see a shift in buyers coming into the market, positive delta, boom, boom, boom. As you can see, we're getting that. You're getting what we call buying imbalances. And from there, I'm actually able to get my entry and spot exactly where the trend would be weak and put my stop loss and go from there. So this was a really easy trade. The issue with this trade was that when we were taking it, the target on it was realistically like 21.3. I think it hit 21.4 and some change. It was kind of, I wouldn't say it was a risky trade, but you'll notice that this is your open interest rate here. I'll maximize this a little bit so you can see that. Open interest is really not great on this move up. So if you were taking this trade, you had to understand that you needed to take profits. This was not going to be a swing trade. This was going to be something that was going to be a day trade, and this was going to let you know that. So when it comes to volume and volume profile did give us the low in the area to keep an eye out for just by watching the ranges. But then going in and actually checking on what's going on the tape will actually tell you what kind of a move you're getting a lot of times. So in this case, we knew that this was just going to be an intraday bounce, take your profits, move on. And we're now going back to the plan of if we can take the lows, are we interested in a swing failure pattern? Will we see that? Again, we'll come right back to this and we'll check and see if that is going to be something we're interested in. Now, notice, again, as price starts reversing as well, open interest is up, telling you that sellers are in control and they've taken control, letting you know that one, it was good that you took profits if you took that long trade. And two, if you were looking for a short trade, there was actually a really nice short trade because you could actually see bearish absorption taking place at the highs. So we could actually see that positive delta was coming into resistance and that someone was sat there with a limit order absorbing those buys and pushing the price lower and using them as fuel to push the price back down to the bottom of the range. And that's how people get screwed in trading, unfortunately. But if you're not playing the same game, you probably shouldn't be day trading. That's kind of the thing about it. Everybody says manipulation, but in reality, there's a lot of analysis out there that doesn't get used. So in terms of tools, I love volume, but you will catch me on ATAS or EXO charts, Sierra charts. All those things are things that you can really live off of. And we've got guys that almost don't even look at TradingView that only trade this chart. And so what we do in our group is we just set everybody up with templates. We set them up with classrooms to get them accustomed to this kind of tool, make sure that they're on the same page, and that way they can up their win percentages. We've got a couple guys in the group, certified market makers, so that's kind of nice. So we know when they're getting in and out kind of, but it helps as well because they obviously use this tool as well. So when people are screaming for manipulation, generally it's because they're not watching what's actually going on in the tape. They're just blindly buying support or selling resistance. And that's why we say we don't preset. We usually market into our positions. Limit orders are something that we do occasionally, but it's pretty rare. So hopefully that helps. I know that you asked about the volume profile, but volume profile really is just a means of identifying support and resistance, much like Bollinger Bands or anything else. I think it's more accurate, and I think it's more malleable because you can actually take variables out of the equation, meaning that there's no more subjectiveness. You can use things like time as a barometer, and then you don't have to worry about collecting statistics because you have a constant now. So yeah, there's a lot that you can do with these tools. It's just, yeah, you can get overwhelmed, I guess. And Tim made a really great point earlier, is like, there is a lot to take in. So it is one of those things where, you know, sometimes simple is best. And if you have a winning strategy, that is better than a lot of people in this market. And it's not easy to trade. So it is one of those things where if you found something that works for you, keep doing it. You know, don't feel the need. Don't feel the need to just have to jump into the next toy because it's there. You know, you can really mess things up. Actually, I know some traders that went from profitable to not profitable because they started tinkering too much. You know, so yeah, that's really all I've got.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I just want to quickly say, guys, we got 500 people in here. Let's smash the likes. Let's get to 200 likes, guys. Let's get to 200 likes. I'm not asking for too much here. Come on, let's smash the likes. Let's get to 200. And I just want to bring up the so I saw something. I forgot who it was that posted it. They're talking about a $400 range for Ethereum. Does anyone see that happening?
I've got mine up right here if you want to see it.
I already got it.
You're calling for that?
I wouldn't say I'm calling for it, but here's the thing. I think that realistically, I kind of agree with Gareth. I had support more in the 700s, but you know, you're really kind of mincing at that point because on a drop like that, it could go either way. Even $100 on that's kind of not a big deal. I shouldn't say not a big deal, but it is. I'm looking for 582 to 527. Anything below that, and I'm looking for $359.
Wow. Say that one more time.
I'm looking for 582.49 to 527.20 as an area of support for me, and then I'm looking down to 359.83 if that's lost. Overall, that's you know, a lot of things have to happen for that. Bitcoin has to go below 20K, things like that. But if we're talking doomsday targets, you know, those are the ones that I have on there in the instance that we get that scenario. So
and we think this can happen this year. Are we talking
I would say I'm looking for like November-ish if we're going to get a move like that. I think it could take all the way to the end of the year. If it's a flash crash, those can happen too. Like, again, none of us have crystal balls, but if it went down nice and orderly, and this was just a sell-off like in the past where it took its time, I think it could go all the way to like November, even into the first quarter of 2023. So.
Wow, that is my portfolio is screaming at you right now. By the way,
leaves a lot of room for bounces in between and trades, though.
Pretty ETH heavy there. So what I want to do is go around and ask a simple question, and we kind of talked about it at the start of the stream, and I want to kind of finish on this note. I'd love basically, let's say, the 1 minute elevator pitch on from each of you on where you think this market is going as it relates to time. I'm not talking about specific targets. I'm talking about generalized, like, hey, I think we're going in this direction for a little while and then buy about this time. Whatever that looks like, kind of a generalized idea of what you guys are thinking overall. Frankie, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, so, you know, I generally, as far as how long it will take for us to bottom, in this cycle, again, you know, I do think we can see something very, very different happen. So, you know, as far as all-time highs, I don't think I know a lot of people, the hopium is all over the internet, you know, but I don't think we are going to see all-time highs at 2024, 2025 at least. I know a lot of people, you know, I say that on my channel and it's crazy. People come at your throat when you say the price is going to go down. But I like to be honest. I like to, you know, tell them, you know, what's going on, not what is beneficial for me or my YouTube channel. You know, if it's going down and I think that, I'll tell you what I think. But yeah, I mean, again, with a possible looming recession, I think we could come down longer than a typical cycle. But yeah, you know, once we bottom out, we typically do, again, you don't want to put too much weight on history, but once we bottom, we typically do have a pretty long, you know, historically, a long sideways accumulation phase. And I think we will get that eventually. But again, all-time highs, probably, in my opinion, not coming till 2024 or 2025.
2024, 2025. Oh,
yeah.
TA Tim. What do you got? What do you got?
Listen, as we said before, no one has a no one has a crystal ball. You're not going to be able to tell that. Here's another good thing to remember. There's a difference between where the bottom is, when we start moving upwards, and when we hit new all-time highs. And then there's a difference between when we hit a new all-time high, because all we have to do is get above that 69,000. Let's, you know, hit 70. Technically, we're at all-time high. Who knows? Is the next all-time high going to be at 100,000? Is it be at 120? Are we going to jump up into the 500,000s? Are we going to just go explosive? Especially because here's right now. We talked about this a little bit ago. The U.S. dollar, you know, it's actually doing well right now, especially if you're looking at other fiat currencies. Sometimes you almost get spoiled living in the United States, where we're complaining about the inflation in the U.S. dollar. We looked at a report this morning. The British pound, for example, is up. Its inflation is over 11% at this point. So other countries are suffering way worse than we are. But how long before people finally see the writing on the wall and realize that fiat currency is a broken form of money, and they start to jump ship for Bitcoin? Also, what we're seeing happen right now with all of the news, you know, Luna hit, then we just saw that Celsius thing hit, and then, you know, there's these exchanges and these coins that are showing to be rug pulls, or at least failing because there's not regulation there. It's going to speed up, I think, regulation from the government about all crypto in general, which a lot of people don't like, and I understand the reason they don't like it, but fundamentally, it actually could encourage institutions to get in the space sooner. We don't have a timetable on that. We got to keep watching what's happening there. And, you know, even on that breath, if we're just talking about Bitcoin, we could actually start to separate the talk of Bitcoin and other altcoins, because Gary Gensler is very much in the boat of saying Bitcoin is not a security. I don't think that's in my field. He's talking about these other altcoins. So rooting for XRP over there to win that lawsuit and help get us a good precedence. But as it stands right now, it looks like Bitcoin. Can you say
that again? You're rooting for just for Crusader. He didn't hear you. So can you say that again?
He ain't an XRP fan.
Oh, he's far from that.
Listen, man, I used to be in that boat. I think those of you, I don't know if anyone here watched me. When I first started doing stuff with Jebb, I had a very negative thought about XRP. I have changed my mind since. Anyway,
I'll go down with the ship like the Titanic.
There we go. There we go. Nice. Either way, the whole thing is there's so many factors of unknowns for us to call this. But again, remember, there's a difference between when we hit the bottom, as we start to slowly climb back up to the upside, when we finally pass previous all-time high, and then when we finally hit a new all-time high. So all those dates are really confusing. I think people will start having a better feeling about the crypto space sometime, and it could happen earlier, but I'm looking at the fall or spring of 2023. Not saying new all-time high, not saying hitting an all-time high. I'm saying there's confidence coming back into the space, and the crypto market doesn't have this doom and gloom. I'm going to lose all my money. I think the weekends at that point will have been shaked out. I think there will be a lot of confidence. There'll be increased education, increased understanding with regulation. But that, you know, we'll see. We'll see.
Before we get Gareth and Magic on this last one, just want to remind you guys, jump into the Discord, Danger Close Alpha. We've got a lot going on. We're giving away a ticket to NFT NYC. Those tickets are like $900, guys, by the way. And I'd like to tell you that that somebody gave it to us, and now we're just giving it away. This one actually hit the back pocket, didn't it, Miguel? We bought this ticket, and now it is coming to one of you, so we're excited to give it away. Make sure you jump into our Twitter space tonight. That's going to be at 9 o'clock, Miguel?
9 p.m. Eastern time.
9 p.m. Jump into the Discord. That'll give you more.
You guys ain't watching the Celtics game?
Negative.
No.
Basketball? Is that a real sport
NFTs.
Still, or do people actually watch that still? Yeah, they do.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So Gareth, let me ask you this: the same thing we've been talking about, right? Like kind of where you see things in a generalized fashion. I want to ask you, twist yours a little bit, because you've been big into the stock market and using that as another indicator. Is the stock market going to see a recession/depression unlike anything we've seen in a long time? Or do you think the dollar is going to be able to, you think the Fed is going to be able to actually maneuver through this chaos that they, as I put it, or as I see it, have personally created? Are they going to be able to maneuver through this and get past?
Yeah, so I think just looking at the cycles from past ones, usually it takes about 12 months for Bitcoin to bottom. So you're looking at November-ish, December if it's replicating past cycles. Then usually it chops around for 6 months plus, and before it actually starts to have that next run. Now that's all assuming that everything is the same as last cycles, even though we know it's not, with the Federal Reserve doing what it's doing. In terms of the stock market, right? So looking at the stock market, you have to say to yourself, like, where is this ultimately going? Yes, I do think a depression-ish, massive recession is in the cards. But the one thing I've learned is that it always takes longer because the government and the Fed are always there to try to help until they can't anymore. So what I mean by that is that what's going to probably end up happening is later this year, the economy will start slipping towards recession. Already you're seeing prices starting to peak out. Oil is starting to top out. I think oil, because you're going to have a recession, people are going to drive less, travel less. That's going to bring oil back in dramatically. That's going to help lower inflation. So my guess is that, yes, we have a depression in the cards. They say every generation has to experience one. Well, the last people that experienced the 29, 30s, unfortunately, there's not a lot of them left anymore. So I do think that's coming, but my guess is it comes around the 100-year cycle, just like COVID with the Spanish flu. So I am into cycle work. I know a bunch of you guys are as well. And we know that the Spanish flu was 1819, and here we had COVID 2020 and so forth. So it's probably later this decade, which tells me the Fed, when inflation comes down and unemployment spikes, which it inevitably will, gets to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, they're going to say, well, inflation's only 4 or 5% right now. Unemployment's 12%. Well, we got to print money and save that side. That's the tough side right now. Then inflation spikes, and then they're like, okay, now we have to pull back on it. And eventually, it's gonna have no impact, and it's just gonna all implode later on. But my guess is that it's probably still a ways away, which may coincide with the epic run of Bitcoin to a 500,000 or a million, maybe later this decade.
That's what I'd like to hear, baby. $1 million Bitcoin. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's go.
Miguel?
Magic. Oh, my turn?
Oh no, I mean,
I didn't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a TA expert. I don't know squat, but with the way things are going, I mean, I've seen a few people talk about how they think the Federal Reserve is going to, quickly shift the gears backwards into easing off on the quantitative easing and probably have a rate cut instead of a rate hike because of they just can't keep up with the rates that they're doing, and they're going to probably squeeze the economy too hard, and they're going to have to ease off, and then that would possibly make people more bullish. So if we do see a rate cut before the end of the year, and the Federal Reserve easing off, then I think that we could see a shift back in the crypto market, like some like Magic and some of the other guys here were saying that by the end of the year we could start maybe having a small upward movement of bullishness due to that. If not, 2024, baby.
Strap in, baby. Magic, what are your thoughts?
Are we talking about just the Fed thoughts?
No, not just the Fed. Like just in particular, where do you kind of see this? Where do you kind of see this headed?
I've got macro time pivots for the 24th through 26th of June. You know how I like to use those. So, and then the biggest one for the cycle is coming in on the 14th of July. That's the golden ratio, actually. So for me, I'm looking to see if we can't get a short-term relief rally in the next coming weeks to see if we've got some kind of reversal. Now, if we don't get that and we've sliced through the level, we've all kind of got it on our charts. We know where we're headed. We're headed, as we called it, the devil's basement, whatever you want to refer to it as. If we can get something like that, I mean, the question is how high? I mean, can you get up to realistically anything under, I think, what is it, 29.8? Anything underneath that is kind of just, it's really not going to do anything. It's just a lower high. Maybe it puts in a nice large range. That would be phenomenal to trade. But the time pivots for the end of the year, if we're going to get some kind of a major reversal, because I just don't see a V shape back to like all-time highs, obviously. Can we get short squeezes along the way now that we're getting to these levels? Absolutely. And we saw that in 2019. I was trading those. That 42% pump, the first time China unbanned Bitcoin, things like that. There will always be a catalyst that's involved. But there was a ton of TA telling you that you should have been looking for longs in that area, both in support, but divergences for some people that use RSI, things like that. So I think those opportunities are going to be coming over the summer. Maybe it just puts in a nice boring range instead. I do think it needs to build up some of that oomph if it's going to do something like that, though. So I think that if we don't dump, we've got a sideways range probably for the coming summer, like a summer lull, I think is what it was referred to last year.
Yeah.
And we'll see what comes of it. Maybe it breaks down, maybe it breaks up. But I'm not looking to take any shorts at these current positions because, again, the shorts were up top. The next series of videos I'm going to go over are shorts that we had set up in the group and exactly how you could have found entry, how you could have found targets using things like the volume profile or some of these range tools, because I do think that's something that's really lacking in some of both the TikTok community and on some of YouTube even. It's just one of those things where it's hard to find people that you can trust, I guess. Not that I should say trust me, trust nobody, as they say.
Question everything. That's right.
That's right. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Magic. Crypto fam, there is a lot of experience on this panel tonight and a lot of experience in doing and educating in different ways. And so what I want to push everybody towards is all of their channels. Make sure you check out Frankie Candles, TA Tim, Gareth Soloway, Magic Internet Money. They've all got something to offer. They all, I think the majority of them also have some trading features that they do where they're where they're teaching people. I know that that's what it's, as Miguel and I look at it, that's what it's about. It's about getting educated. That's why you watch certain channels. There's entertainment side of it. Hopefully Miguel and I are bringing that to you because we always like to bring that as well. But then it's the education. And if you feel like you got some education out of this tonight, will you do us a favor? X out of the live chat real quick, smash the likes. It's been a freaking great channel. I want to thank everybody that was on here. Gentlemen, you all did a fantastic job. We appreciate you guys for coming on. And Crypto fam, we love you. We appreciate you. If nobody's told you that before today, I love you. Thank you for coming on. Question everything.
Trust nothing.
And until next time, hodl.
Like it's hot.
We'll see you soon.